Just imagine you're a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, just joined the military, looking to go to one of the places you've always wanted to go. Sun shining, warm weather, girls in bikinis, sand, big houses, big dreams. San Diego, California is becoming one of the worst places you'd ever want to be stationed at because it's shown to probably be one of the most expensive. And if you don't believe me, this is a well-respected report that has been noted every single year. That is the U.S. News World Report, where they say the most expensive places to live in the U.S. in 2023 to 2024. And the number one rating here is San Diego, California as the most expensive. They give an overall score of 6.2 on a 10, 6.7 for quality of life. I would say it's actually higher in my opinion because I really love the place, but the value, I will agree, is trash with a 3.3. I spent 5 years of my time in the U.S. military there, so I never paid California taxes, but I will agree with that. Now, it should be noted that there is some leniency with how service members are appropriately paid while they were in these areas, but a lot of people are saying it's not enough. But let's reflect on some of those numbers real quick. So this is the Naval Base San Diego website where they show these enlisted rates. I like to go with the E3 with dependents, $36.39, as that, if you guys remember, we were saying the average rent was $1,800. I think that is not appropriate for this because it doesn't take long to search this out. Just a little quick search here on apartments.com. You can see I put my range here of $3,000 to $36.39 to kind of get a decent range, because usually when you go super low, you can get some kind of trash, not really close to base. But there shows to be a lot of, possibility in this region. Obviously if you have pets and things like that, or you have kids, you might need to go up to a 2-bedroom where this would really be cut pretty tight in your budget. But still, it should be noted that the average pay that this is supposed to cover is actually not 100% of your rent. That's because, as military.com and others have pointed out here, it is supposed to cover 95% of what your allowance is. And they do break down what it's designed to cover. Like, if you're an E6 with dependents, receives the rate of a 3-bedroom townhouse, as does an O5 without dependents. An E4 without dependents receives the rate for a 1-bedroom apartment. An E1 with dependents receives the rate for the midpoint between the cost of a 2-bedroom apartment and a 2-bedroom townhouse. So they're collecting all this data information, but you have to imagine that San Diego County is pretty big. And that's because you can see here, like, if you ever lived in this area, living out in these areas is obviously going to capture a lot of data in various points, depending if you're stationed more north towards Camp Pendleton, or you're south to Miramar, or you're even south to San Diego, or even south to Seal Beach, or any of these other, Coronado or something like that, where I sit here and I'm like, there is a vast array of information you could collect from all of this. And I just want to give a quick interruption. Most of you guys are not subscribed here, but if you're watching this, a lot of times it's because you have watched the videos over and over again. And I would like to invite you guys, if you guys have enjoyed the content and I've earned your subscription, that you hit that button. It's free. I promise you guys, I'm trying to make content that you guys are enjoying and only post stuff I would actually enjoy to talk about myself. So I would appreciate you helping out a small channel like myself. And that is important because this shows from this map that people are going to be driving their cars. They're going to have new regulations for having to increase their insurance, as California is known to require some of the highest coverage in the country to include that. If you don't believe me, let's start looking at the prices of that. So we go to AAA gas prices here. The average is $3.49 across the country. And the red just means this is bad, right? If you guys have not been able to read a map. But here, they're saying it's $5.29 on average. I've heard of even higher from my friends that are stationed over there. So if you are driving from these further areas for a more accommodating place that is able to cover this allowance that you're getting from the military, that would be an option. But still, you're going to pay for it probably in gas and time as well. And even on top of that, I do want to go into other costly expenses that people are going to look at as far as fixed rates, because your base pay would cover that gas amount, right? You're not getting more base pay from the military just because you live in San Diego. If that was the case, you would get cost of living allowance, which is usually annotated for places overseas because there is an exchange rate and things like that, as it can be more expensive to get U.S. goods and services and things like that. And speaking of which, that's where we look at groceries here. So here, the average cost of groceries by state, 2023, California here is rated number 19. Yes, there are other states that are still high, but I'd like to look at places like, for example, other military installations that are just about the same impact size fleet-wise. You look at Virginia here, that's 42 out of 50 states out here. So you got to look at this and say, it might be more cost-effective to actually buy groceries over there, as many people are setting up a fixed budget off of the $400 and something they get from the basic allowance for sustenance that the military does give out if you're allotted that allowance that's out there. And this will actually have a huge impact as far as, generational wealth building in general, as far as that goes, because when I went back to San Diego only in 2009, at the bottom of the market, I wish I bought something. I'm an idiot for not doing that. I would have easily made money in the 4 years I was stationed there as I was coming out of that, but everyone was scared. We know that. I was very young. However, I will say that, a lot of people that were looking to maybe purchase a home, get invested, use their housing allowance for that, they're not going to be able to. They're going to be just barely making ends meet. On top of that, a lot of people have been complaining about the housing and how they are dying to go into base housing because they can get a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom house that they would never be able to afford in San Diego otherwise. If you guys do not understand, there are thousands upon thousands of military that are stationed in San Diego between all branches that are down there. I believe it's about a quarter of the entire population is employing the government employees that are there. I don't know how much that's military, but looking at this, I have to tell you guys, there is not enough base housing to go across for every military person out there, and I don't think the military is going to look into purchasing more land in these areas in order to try and make that a case. And if anything, they will most likely end up trying to be able to increase housing allowance as these rates creep up, and they do continued analysis every year. So my advice for a lot of people here would be start looking at ways that you can cut out unnecessary spending, because obviously this is going to be a rough time if you're transitioning over there. On top of that, I will say a lot of people, I'm sure, will be talking with whoever they're getting orders from, whether that's a Navy detailer, a Marine Corps monitor, whoever does it for the Air Force and Army, but looking at other locations that you can be stationed at that are not going to be this intense as far as cost of living when it comes to gas, groceries, because we are on a fixed budget other than the housing allowance part, which is only supposed to cover 95%. So a lot of people are going to have to get very savvy with Uber Eats, DoorDash, things like that. If you want to make a little extra cash, try and make it survive here. But again, wear and tear on your car and things like that. So people are going to have to get real savvy if you're in the military to make ends meet here. I would love to pose this question to you guys now that are watching this video, because obviously this is contentious as far as some people think we get paid perfectly fine. Some people think we get paid nothing. So would this matter if you were to be looking for orders today? Would you rate San Diego as a place that you would want to be stationed at and actually give an attempt to battle these prices in this market? Or is this a place that you're going to shy away from because of these prices? As I think this might have a critical readiness component here, as people will not be looking to go there, even though people say their orders not once. I get that. Let me know down in the comments below where that conversation continues. But as always, if you guys like what I cover on this channel, you can always hit me up over on Instagram, over on Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, all the good stuff. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.